I've had long debates with people about this, and no one wants to believe me. Not no one, but a lot of people want to argue the point with me. But I'm just like, it's the truth. Knowledge is not power. It is only potential.
Come on.
So you hear that concept, we're talking about still, this is still in line with foundations and understanding, how we're building legacy. What good is it for me to have all this information if I never apply it? So we walk into situations all the time where we know what to do, but we don't do it. Therefore, your knowledge is not power in that moment. It's potential. It has the potential to help you. It has the potential to move you forward. It has the potential to improve what's happening around you or help you make a good decision. But if you never apply it, it is not powerful at any moment.
That's
So,
good.
so knowledge is only powerful when you put it into action. So whatever information, and this is to anybody out there, whatever information that is good to help build your family, to expand your family in the right direction, to build your best life, to be a legacy builder, you got to understand that you can't be a collector of information, but you have to apply what you know so that you can execute it. And if you execute that over and over and over again, then you'll become a legacy builder. Then you'll be building your best life and you'll be moving in the right direction.
But the best thing that is the example of my life is what I leave behind. It's what I've left behind in lessons. It's what I've left behind in what God put in me to begin with, which is why this book had to come out, because he put it in us. So the best thing you need to do is discovering who you are, being who you are, and then doing what you are supposed to do on earth to leave behind. Because one day I'm going to be gone, but the book can still be here. So in essence, I'm still here. If I write more books, I'm still here. If I teach my kids the same lessons that we learned, I'm still here. And what God put in me keeps going. And that's the goal, is that just like we quote, well, Abraham, it's going to be like, Madison's going to be like, well, Grandpa said. That's the goal, is that every generation we build on what our ancestors did. We build on our parents. We build on our grandparents. You're not starting over from scratch, Madison. That'd be the biggest insult, would be for you to have to start over from nothing, because your parents built and your grandparents built and your great grandparents built, and you're standing on all of their shoulders. And when you win, your whole family wins.
Yeah.
Like they win, like there's a crown that they then get because you took it further. So it's like we're in the Olympics right now because they're doing the Olympics, but it's almost like I keep seeing the one where they pass the baton on.
Oh, relays.
The relay race. And I hear Hebrews 12, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Every one of us is running the same race that Adam ran. It has not been called over yet. We're in the same race. And if you do your part, if you pass the baton on to the next person and the next person, your family can still win. No matter where they came from, no matter what they went through, we realize that everything we do, it's elevating our whole family. It's bringing our whole family forward. And that is the benefit of legacy builders, is that we are keeping our family line going. We're keeping our family team together.
Just being that everybody's going through something, to give grace. I think, I just think relationships are huge. We touched on that a little bit too, that, a relationship is so important if you're going to inspire anybody or make a difference in anyone's life, that relationship needs to be there, has to be there in order to get that out of them. But yeah, so since we talked on mine, I'll let you go. Tag yours.
Was that it? What was yours again? I was thinking about something. No, I'm just kidding. No, probably my biggest lesson in life was, after I failed in business, it took me like 8 months to embrace that failure. That's a process to go through. I mean, that's a major event in my life that I had to, because the first 2 months I denied it. Then I embraced it, and I cried under my desk for like 30 to 40 minutes of getting all of that anger and resentment and bitterness and blaming people, got it out of my system. Said, oh, now what are you going to do now? So God, through that process of healing, he was showing me the things that he wanted me to learn. Because through that failure process, if you embrace it and you listen to God, he's going to tell you every lesson you need to learn to get to your destiny. And the number one lesson was plans fail due to lack of counsel, but plans succeed due to many advisors. I didn't take advice. My business failure was all due to I did not take advice. Because I had my financial advisor saying, Greg, you can't grow this fast. You don't have enough cash. But I'm getting people to loan me money. I know because you're making money, the economy's going to turn. You're not ready for that. We got to strengthen your equity position up. I didn't listen to him. That was the death of me.
Wow.
Because I would tell everybody, if you don't like the path that you're on, go find. We've been mom and dad to many kids of Trey and Trent's friends. Go find somebody like that. Find a coach you trust. Find a minister you trust. Find somebody at your church you trust. Go ask them, say, help me. Go ask for help. I never asked anybody for help my whole life. But I do now. I even might ask her for help. I don't know about that. That's a tough one there.
On a really good day.
No, it's just ask it. Yeah, go get advice. Go get counsel. That's why I'm leadership coaching now, because I took my boys to individual coaching classes. I know we send them to reading classes, getting ready for ACT classes, math classes, speed training, conditioning training, skill training in different sports, because one-on-one coaching can help you become the very best version of yourself. No question about it.
So I would say that thoughtfulness and considerate and assuming positive intent is something that's much needed within our family, because it's easy for us to make assumptions. It's easy for us to push our own perspective and not look at the perspective of somebody else and where they're coming from and what's going on in their life. And so that's something that I continue to work on, and something that Tashara has helped bring some balance into my life as far as concerning thoughtfulness.
Well, I mean, I think our kids see, because it is something that we both are working on in our family. Our kids see, if we make them, if we have a disagreement about something, which it's not a whole lot, but if there's something that we don't agree on, or something happens, or they see the both of us, we're very apologetic, we're willing to say I'm sorry when we make a mistake or we're wrong, and it's I think that's important that they do see that, so that they again, like I said, will instill hopefully thoughtfulness and integrity and prosperity, not just prosperity for for them, but also thinking about other people outside of the family. All of these things, I think, goes back to having a very solid, good foundation. And if the foundation is good and solid, you can continue to build on that, and it won't shift when winds come. It's still standing.
And another thing that I feel like is so important in a line of business, especially with Eric, you being a builder. I just sat with a builder 2 nights ago. And the one thing I loved about this builder is he communicates. He lets you know what's the next step is, what the process is. And even when you go to like a doctor and they say, now what we're going to do next is this, and they take the time to really explain things to you, I think that is just a key thing. It's kind of like slow down to actually hurry up. But I feel like when people take that time, that communication is just so key. And anyway, and I want to say, with the process of you helping us with getting ready for the Zoom, and you both, Madison and Eric, you both have been so well organized and preparing and communication. I can see you're going to be so successful at what you do, because you're doing it already with even what you're doing with your Zoom and building your legacy builders and your paths you're going to take in life. For you, Madison, I don't know where you're going exactly, but I know you're going to be a success because I can already see what you're learning from your dad and your mom too. I know her too, and she's a great gal.
Thank you guys so much. That really means a lot.
Yeah, the only other thing I'm going to add, just I'm looking from my perspective because that's all I know, is when I was coming along in my 20s and 30s, and I briefly touched on this earlier, it is very easy to start looking at people in their 40s and 50s, and we have people do this all the time. Oh man, your house, you're this, or that. That's accumulation effect. We didn't buy this where we live right now just because we can afford that much in a house payment. No, you don't afford a house this big. You don't have that much of a house payment because you have a larger down payment, you've accumulated, or you have cash and you pay cash for it. So if you're younger and you're comparing yourself to older, that's not even a fair comparison. You'll always, in fact, you'll pass a lot of them that are older that just didn't accomplish a lot in their life. And that's not good or bad. So if you want to get competitive, it's great. That's fine. Compete with someone that's similar to you in your age. Look and learn from the ones that are older and try to learn from their mistakes that you don't make them as well. That's always positive. But remember, mistakes are not a negative because you learn from them and that'll help you in the future. So it's work hard, work smart, and keep saying, how can I change that or how can I get better at it? But you can become very unhappy if all you do is compare. So if you set your goal, and like right now, we're setting our goals, and it's funny, I used to want to be number one or be up there in the competing of it. Now I don't have a desire to be number one. I have a desire to say, here's how much I want to make. This is how much I want to make over it so I can do A, B, C. And if I make that, then I can go do something that I want to do. And that has actually been more exciting in the later part of my career than the beginning. It was just survival and make money and try to pay the bills and try to develop and build. Now it's like, okay, next year we want to take our anniversary trip and we're going to do a Viking river cruise in Europe. And so,
Awesome.
so it's fun to start looking at those and saying, all right, how much do we want to spend? Because it's not inexpensive.
Right.
And if we sell this much this year or this much next year, we can write the check. It's no big deal. We can write it now, but I'd rather go earn it.
Right. That's a key lesson right there too.
Yeah. Because we could pay the bill right now, but I want to earn it and pay for it out of future earnings. Keep what we have invested where it is. So keep working for us.
Kind of mine sort of in parts, but knowing who you are, whose you are, kind of gives you that connection to your lineage, your royalty, your connection, your foundation. So knowing that, and then knowing where you came from, kind of the same thing. We're children of God. We're from that heavenly kingdom and put on earth. Here to do the king's work here on earth. So that's that authority part of it, which is all great. Well, and it's that potential of authority, but how do we do that here on this earth? And that's where it's like understanding our purpose is how this whole thing flows down into what we're supposed to be doing here on this earth. So I love that combination. It's like, yes, get that foundation right. Who are you? Whose are you? Where did you come from? And then finally, what are you called to do? It's like, once you get that locked down, it's like, now you're ready. And that's probably the biggest thing for our boys. It's just like, man, what is that? And it's cool seeing, we talked about Nathan earlier. It's like, wow, this mowing thing is really, really coming strong. Is that it? And just kind of nurture and just keep putting stuff, keep putting him in situations is he going to get tired of it? I mean, who knows? He could be tired of it. And then, okay, what is it? What is his purpose and assignment? But right now, that's the thing, so, and it's like, find that thing and it'll serve you well, all the way through. If you find it at a young age, a lot of people, I mean, you've heard of this, they go to college to find themselves. It's like, that's an expensive way to find yourself. So that's our goal as parents, is like to get that foundation in them so they already know what they're called or have a real good idea of the start of that purpose. Obviously God's path will change and expose you to different things, but if you have that mindset, it'll keep you out of a lot of trouble because you're focused on stuff, and everything that's an opportunity isn't an opportunity. So your purpose being your goal is gonna, some opportunities will flow right into it. That's a true opportunity, and then other opportunities would actually be distractions for that. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway.
So I'll piggyback off of that and say that the key thing is relationship, and a twofold kind of relationship with Jesus, knowing whose you are, your identity, that kind of thing, and not misconstruing that with religion, but having relationship, a personal relationship with Christ. And then on top of that, having relationship with people, making those two priority in that order: relationship with Christ and relationship with people. That is what we're called to do. That's our mandate here on earth. Him, and then each other first. And then everything else will fall in line, fall in place. I think sometimes we can get so distracted on the materialistic things. We're trying to become successful, to gain and have so much of everything else in the world, to the point of neglecting relationship with Christ and relationship with each other, even to the point of stepping over or on people to gain the wealth and the success. But I think it is so important for us to remember that even when you get to that point of having all the wealth in the world, all the success, if you're alone with no one to share it with, because you have burned every bridge, ruined every relationship, you're still not going to be satisfied and happy. You're not going to find that peace and that joy. And the only way that will come is if you maintain relationship in both directions. So that would be my 2 cents.
It was important for me to have Audrey, especially at that time, because of everything that we had experienced together, even without her knowing it. It was important to me that she see me not just when I'm crossing a finish line, either physically or literally or metaphorically. Like, I wanted her to also see me when I was really pushing, like training, gutting it out. So she would see me when I was training, or she would see me work late. I mean, when she was a toddler, I got all of my licenses when she was a toddler. I would put her to bed and I would study late at night. And sometimes, the amount of times she would wake up and just not go to bed, or she would come into my room, and she'd see me just at my desk, just studying away. Like, I wanted her to be involved and see me still striving for my dreams, my passions, because I want to encourage that in her too. Like, she knows without a shadow of a doubt that whatever she is passionate about, we are behind her 100%.
Yeah.
And like, gymnastics is a perfect example. It's a massive time commitment. It is a financial commitment, but we have told her, like, hey, we are here for as far as you want to take this. The minute that you say, hey, this isn't for me anymore, like, let us know. But until that happens, like, we are behind you 100%. Like, we will get the right people. We will, do all the things. So, I mean, it's just, I guess in a way we kind of set the tone for that, for her life, and eventually for Hans, as he starts pursuing things that he's passionate about.
Yeah, I think what's super important about that too is the example that is set. And I know, like, specifically with gymnastics, we'll take her to there, and there's nothing wrong with this. A lot of parents will stay and like watch the entire thing. And there's been many times she's like, hey, can you like come in and watch me, stay for practice? We're like, no, like, I gotta go to work. And she understands. Sometimes we will, kind of try to catch the tail end of it. But she understands. We've explained to her of like, hey, like, you're doing gymnastics because we're able to afford it. And the only way we can afford that is if we are also working. And for her to see us pursue our passions, or to know that, like, hey, yeah, after gymnastics, yeah, we gotta go, like for me, like we gotta go pick up some meat, we gotta go do this. You know, like it's just you're along for the ride just as much as I'm along for your ride and the things that you're passionate about. Like I'm here with you, you're here with me, but also like we make sure we haven't missed a gymnastics competition. And it's also exciting for us. It's like, hey, we haven't seen her do all this. We get to see her progression, and it's like it's super exciting
Yeah.
and all that. But yeah, I think more than anything, it's the example that's set that if you want to pursue an instrument, she's like, oh, I'm interested in that. We're like, okay, well, yeah, let's do it, you know, but you know, don't be just willy-nilly about it. Like, let's pursue it, you know, but
I will say with that, we made it very, very clear early in our marriage and even before that, when it was just her and I, that like I will not be a taxi driver. So, you know, right now you're only 8. Like, let's stick to one thing. Let's be all in. And if you say, hey, that's not for me anymore, cool. Like, we'll, you know, finish it out, but then we'll be done with that and you can pursue something else. But, you know, she's not going to be in, or Hans, they're not going to be in like 8 things at once. It's just, it's too much. And, you know, we still have our lives and things that we want to pursue and a marriage to invest into. And that's why like bedtime around here, unless it's a special occasion or we have friends over or a weekend, like we take bedtime seriously. Like 8 o'clock, you are in your room, lights out, it's bedtime.
Yeah.
Cry it out, read a book, whatever. But like it's bedtime, because from 8 to 10:30, like that's our time. Like that's when we get to invest into like spending time together or working on projects or yeah, it's just like we also need our time.
Yeah, we can't lose ourselves for our kids. It's like completely backwards to thinking. Like we have to be ourselves for our kids. And if we're not being creative, if we're not pursuing the things that we love, we absolutely will not be the best versions of ourselves to our kids in terms of parenting, our patience, our the example we set. Like they will see a shell of who we really are.
Well, I can't explain justice unless I kind of give a backdrop to something Eric said. Eric and Madison that came down for an event in Nashville. We went out to dinner one night, and we were on the way back to the hotel to drop them off, me and my daughter. And I looked at Eric and said, "Man, you ought to take your family and move to Tennessee." He says, "What?" I said, "Yeah, come on down. Me and you'll start a business and we'll get it going." Guys, for a man who has lived in a certain area with all his family, all of his life, you have to have unique in your life that would hear something like that. And 6 months later, he was in Tennessee. If you can't tell, I mean, if you're looking at this video, Eric is a white guy. I'm a black guy. But we don't see our skin color. We see the purposes of God. That's what legacy is about. Legacy is about taking what God brings into our life, recognizing the beauty and value of it, and being willing to move. So I don't know that I would have been able to respond the way Eric did. That takes courage. That takes a fortitude. That takes man, I can't even begin to tell you what type of man it takes to hear God speak to him in that way to be able to make a move like that. So Eric, again, I can't talk about justice without saying you are a model of much of what I believe justice is all about. And here's the essence of justice. I'm going to give you the definition first. I usually don't do this, but tonight I think it's the best way. After several years of study and being challenged on this, I felt I needed to, by scripture and with a simple elevator answer, give anybody what I see biblical justice to be. Biblical justice is this: any individual, male or female, who willingly use their capability and means to remove oppression by putting things right for others in a just way, for the just, to willingly be able to do that. Now, why is that important? Because injustice is to have the ability, the capability and means, and be unwilling to remove the oppression or put things right for another person in a just way for the just one. So we end up doing injustice because we either won't do it or we do it in the wrong way. And what a person has to realize is if God brings a situation across your path, then you're probably the person he wants to use to correct that situation. The parable of the Samaritan in the Bible becomes a phenomenal example of that.
Yes, well, I know that Eric touched on this a little bit, but I did want to add to this too, because I would say it is one of the greatest lessons, is the concept of God as Father. Because whether you have a great relationship, a horrible relationship with either your parents or family members, they're never going to be perfect, even if they're the greatest parent in the world. And so whatever that gap is, whether it's a great parent but not perfect, or not a great relationship at all, you still need God as Father. And so I think that has significantly impacted my life since, and it's still a journey. There's still, wounds that I'm working through, or lies that I sometimes believe because of how I grew up. But the more that I go back to focusing on God as Father and God as perfect Father and my provider, that's when I feel like then I'm not lacking. Even though I don't have a relationship with my parents now, I'm not lacking because I have God as Father. So wherever you're at on that spectrum, I think that that's a really valuable thing to learn, and will just help you grow in your faith and in hope overall.
Yeah, that's so good. So well said. Kendra, what about you? Greatest lesson or best advice?
Well, I would love to just take what Lindsay said, because that was beautiful. So I guess adding on to that, I would also just encourage people, like, therapy and counseling is such a great resource. And if that is something that you can do, like, please take the time to do it. Even if you're not a person that you feel like, is struggling in a extreme way, like you just have smaller things that you want to work through, or maybe you didn't have that safe space growing up. It's really made an impact for me to know that on 1 hour on Tuesdays, I have a room that is just mine, and I get to say whatever I want, and I get to feel however I am feeling, and I don't have to hide anything. And working through those challenges has just been just so important. So I would absolutely encourage, if there's anybody who's maybe scared, there's such a stigma around therapy that I'm glad that we're kind of dismantling. But it does not mean you're weak. It does not mean that you're crazy, or any terrible stigma that we put on it. But it just means, honestly, that you're strong and that you're willing to face the hard stuff. So that would be an encouragement.
So good, so good. Micaiah, what about you?
Yes, well, ditto to both of those things. This is really good. I think one thing that kind of was a mantra in my life when I was really just first starting this healing journey was this idea that I am loved in this moment more than I ever have been and more than I ever will be. And nothing I can do is going to change that, because then that allows me to, when something in a interpersonal relationship is struggling, or I'm having a hard time, or I don't feel as close to God as I like, just that reminder just really brings me a lot of peace in my life. And I think when you can make decisions from a place of knowing that you're already loved and secure, that's just a game changer. So
whenever it feels like you're at the end of the road, or everything is failing, or you're not going to do any better, or everything is just down, just keep pushing, because there's light at the end of the tunnel. And we all have bad days, but like my dad said, there is always someone who is having it a lot worse than you are. And so just keep pushing and you'll get through it.
In this season, I'm learning that, as parents, sometimes we want to live our lives vicariously through our children. And we kind of want to see through them. We want to see them maybe accomplish and do things that we were not able to accomplish and do as children. And sometimes we can try to artificially direct them, in a place that they may not be willing or wanting to go. And I say all that to say this. I feel like the relationship that I have with my girls, I feel like it's a good relationship. But as a father, I've struggled with my relationship with my son. And so, on Saturday, this past Saturday, I had to have a conversation with him. And, I had to apologize to him. I'm trying not to get emotional right now, but I had to apologize to him for not being the father that he needed me to be. I had other plans for him, and maybe those plans that I had for him were not going according to the way I wanted them to go. And so it kind of made me maybe a little distant from him. And while he was going in a different direction. And I kind of feel like as a father, to a son, I could have been a better father to him. And so I had to apologize to him on Saturday. And, a lot of times we see people, we see families from the outside, and we look at them and everything looks good. You look at these families and everything looks good, or at least that's the perception that people have. We post all the good stories and good photos on Facebook and the good news on Facebook, but believe it or not, every family has some dysfunction. They do. And not every family is perfect. I don't care who the family, I don't care who, TD Jakes, there's dysfunction going on in people's families. And, the blind spot for me, in dealing with my son, has I've been able to recognize that blind spot and praying and hoping that, moving forward, we can take the necessary and corrective actions to kind of mend that relationship so that I can have the same relationship that I have with them. I can also have that with him. And so, I say all that to say, each child is different. And so the way you raise one child may not work for the next child. And so as a parent, you always have to be open to being creative, and looking for ways to make sure that specific child is getting what they need from you as a parent, and not necessarily you pushing down what you think they need, if that makes sense.
I'd say never give up, just, keep God first, and never give up. Always have passion in what you do. Put your best foot forward. Try to stay solid. There's going to be ups and downs, but regardless, if you keep pushing, and if you're never out the game, if you're never out of it if you don't quit. Don't quit. Once you're still in it, whatever it is. Follow your dreams. If you feel like you want to, be an artist, or you want to do real estate, just keep on pushing. And so, perseverance. That's what I would say. Just keep pushing.
Don't take life so seriously. Don't worry about tomorrow. I love there. It's one of my favorite scriptures, because tomorrow has its own set of problems. Don't be anxious, right? Just let go, let God, and try to be an example to someone else. Always try to look at who's watching me. who's watching me? How can I impress someone else? Doesn't have to necessarily be our children, but we're living in a time now with so much going on. People need to be loved. Just show love and compassion wherever you go. That would be just the advice. It's simple. And I think sometimes people make things more complicated than what they really are. You know, God is love. So if we could just keep that loving heart, it keeps us from being stressed out. I mean, it does, because if we get too worked up about things, I do, and we still will, right? But that's just the advice to at least try. We're going to have those days where we're going to be we know all of this, but human nature is going to take us elsewhere, you know. But if we could just let go and let God and just live each day and look at this as a gift. It's a journey, you know, and enjoy that. Just enjoy the journey, because the journey is more exciting to me than the destination.
Thanks so much for joining us today on the Legacy Builders podcast. We would love to hear from all of you. Go tag us on Facebook and Instagram and let us know what the biggest takeaway from today's episode was.